Well, they say that the second time is the lucky time. Or hang on, it could be the third time is the lucky time. So the second time it might not be the lucky time if this doesn't work now. I am really hoping that we're actually getting a feed through, which actually gives you some data and actually an image. I have no idea if that is in fact going to happen. But I am testing and trying and seeing if it'll work. And you never know. I might actually be able to broadcast sound and picture. I think it might be working now. I could explain all the problems and issues that I had, but frankly, I think most of you wouldn't give a shit. All I can tell you is it's complicated, it's annoying, and it was not my fault. It's somebody else. Let's do some monsters. Let's do some monsters for Shadowdark. Oh my gosh, what a mess that was today. So, I'm going to say it now. We're going to make some Shadowdark monsters. We're going to make one at least. We're going to make the Brammaram. I'll explain everything very quickly. I was going to put in a poll, but I just don't have time. And my suggestion is grab some food, some drink. Make sure you're comfortable because we've got to get this done. And I've already chopped up 15 minutes worth of nonsense. So I believe it's now. Now's the time. We'll start. Let's just get going, shall we? Oh my gosh. Hi, welcome to HowtoRPG. My name is Fred Weller. I talk about tabletop role-playing games, and today it's Shadowdark, which is basically just Dungeons and Dragons. You know, it's that black and white art stuff. We've been making Shadowdark monsters for a couple of weeks now, and I'm feeling a little bit better, and I'm back. So we're going to do the Brammaram. Now, the Brammaram, drawn by AJ Pickett. You can find the lore for this nowhere right now, but the lore is coming, and we're going to make a stat block for Shadowdark using the Brammaram as our building blocks, which means it is an original new monster, has never been made before, and wow, I'll tell you, what a day that has been. Things could have been easier, I can tell you that now, but they weren't, and so, but we're back, we're here, we seem to be broadcasting. I have a table that I've created for making Shadowdark monsters that I would really appreciate if people go and grab, because I really want you to make your own stuff. For me, it's really important that people make their own bits and pieces. It's not as fun unless you do make your own bits and pieces. I think there's a lot to be said for creating stuff that you are interested in and that, you know, you find some use in. So essentially the table that I'm looking at right now is this one. I've created it. It's free. Okay, you can join. You can get it off my Patreon. It is free. You don't have to pay for it. You just have to become a free member. Okay, which is like no real big deal because I don't really pay too much attention to the free membership anyway. But I do put a lot of stuff up there. And it gives you a table from 0 through to 10, and it gives you a breakdown of what the attack bonus is, the number of attacks, the damage per attack it should be doing, how many hit points it should have, what the armor class might look like, which is quite wide, difficulty classes, what sort of treasure it might have, the lowest end of the stat modifier that you're looking at, and the highest end of the stat modifier you're looking at. Because those things, those two last columns, are really not that important, ultimately. The other stuff, more important. And so we're going to build a monster. So what I decided to do was take this thing, and I made that table. Okay, it took me a little while, I got there, and I talked to AJ, and AJ's come up with a whole lot of monsters, about 50 or so monsters that are completely original, that he thought it would be interesting to create. And I live in New Zealand, okay, so does AJ Pickett. We live in Middle Earth. Hobbiton is not far from us. Okay, it is a thing. And if you don't know anything about a New Kiwi or a New Zealander, is our sense of humour. So he made a monster that is basically a big sheep that poos pellets. Poo pellets. Deadly poo pellets coming out of this thing. It is very goofy in every way that you can possibly think about it. But I'm still going to make it. What did I make it off? Almost everything here, I usually base it off something that already exists that Kelsey's made. And when you're making your own monsters, I suggest you do the same thing. I used the moose. I wanted the Brammaram to be quite large, intimidating, fast, and able to, when you piss it off, to turn around, point its ass at you, and just shoot out poo pellets at high speed, like bullets. And that is the monster we're making for today. If that scares you off, I don't know what will. Okay, so that's how I started this whole process. So I have a Google document that allows you to go through that process, and I've done most of the work, not all of it, but I'll explain how I built this. To be clear too, I've also, me and AJ, Pickett, Mitchell Reed, Wally DM, and David Bailey, my brother, we put together a document called the Players Expansion for Shadowdark RPG. It has a whole lot of classes and ancestries. You pay what you want off DriveThru RPG. The link is in the description and in the live chat. Go check it out if you haven't already. Now let's make the sodding monster. Okay, all right. Now that we've all done all that, here we go. So I'm going to build a lot of lore for these monsters, but not right now. Now we're just doing the stat blocks, doing the hard yakka, which is trying to get your head around the maths for it, right? To be fair, it's probably not as bad as 5e. Trying to get a monster to work properly for 5e is much more difficult than I think it is for Shadowdark, just because Shadowdark acknowledges that there is room to move and that you can move, and then there are certain things that are very specific. Okay, so don't worry too much about this lore suggestion stuff, because I'm going to be dealing with that later. This is the Brammaram. Okay, so it's a large, furry, cream-coloured quadruped with heavy, curved horns. This fiercely territorial mountain goat fires poo pellets. It's exactly the way you think, people. It's exactly the way you think. So I had to decide on a monster level for Shadowdark for this. And I thought, ultimately, basing it off the moose was the smartest idea. Now, the moose is a level 4 monster, okay? So level 4 it is. It's not highly evil or, it's really just trying to survive. So it shooting poo pellets out its backside is a defensive mechanism for somebody who decides that it might be, the Brammaram is a nice, tidy meal. So hence its defensive mechanism. So it's really just trying to eat grass and live its life. It's not a meat-eating, large, overgrown mutant sheep or anything like that. Unless, of course, AJ's missed a bit of information I needed to know. So what we needed to do is we needed to determine, since it's level 4, what should our armor class and hit points be? And almost all of this always goes back to the stat modifiers or ability modifiers. So the first thing is I built, like I said, most of it directly off the moose. And the moose has a strength of 3. So we're going to lock in 3 plus 3. Okay, that's our modifier. Its dexterity is above average, I think. The moose has only got a 0, but I wanted to have this to be a little bit quicker. I just feel like I feel like a goat is faster than a moose, but maybe I'm wrong, or at least a Brammaram should be faster. Anyway, so I've put it in at a +1 for it to make it a little bit different. And then the constitution modifier, I just put as a +1. So it's above average. It's a big creature. Okay, it weighs a lot. It'll hurt you. And it's a +1 for that. Its intelligence, it's not the smartest creature, so it's just a -1 for that. Okay, so intelligence -1. Wisdom, I thought it should be just sort of average. So much like the moose, it's just a 0 modifier. So we'll lock that in. And then its charisma, it's not that charismatic. Okay, so -2. So not charismatic. Okay, now we need to decide on how fast it moves. I'm going to go kind of backwards a little bit, you might have noticed. Movement with creatures is usually anywhere from close, near, double near. You do not have monsters move far, because it's basically giving a monster teleport. Monsters that teleport are bad news for everybody, because far, basically as far as you can see, and the range doesn't go really beyond that. So I decided to just follow with the moose and go with the double near, even though I despise double near as a range increment in Shadowdark. It's not like everything that they do I love. That's definitely one of those things I don't like. Okay, so I needed to determine my armor class. So armor class is determined by your dexterity modifier plus 10, and then you add any bonuses for armor. So it might be natural armor, it might be artificial armor, could be anything. 10 plus 1 for the dexterity or dexterity modifier, and we get 11. So that's an armor class. Now you'll notice off the table, which I will flip back to, monster level 4, armor class, where should it be sitting? And you'll notice it's right here, anywhere from 8 through to 17. So I've got a lot of room to move. So one of the things to understand is that armor class is not the most important thing when it comes to monster level. You can have a high level monster that has quite a low armor class. It is quite possible to do that, okay? And you'll notice that the armor class range does not shift that much until you get to about level 6 and then level 8, okay? That's where things sort of shift around a lot. I wouldn't even bother paying too much attention to 0 level. So we're all good. That's all done. Cool. Hit points. Our hit points are determined very easily. It is always an 8-sided dice, which is 4.5. You take the average, you multiply it by the monster level, which is 4, and you add the con modifier, which is plus 1. So ultimately, what does that look like? Well, if we go 4.5 multiplied by 4, because it's monster level 4, we get 18. Then we add the plus 1, and we get 19, which is why hit points are 19, okay? Much lower than when you're dealing with 5e or Pathfinder or any other version of D&D, frankly, other than sort of AD&D and basic D&D. How many attacks should it have? Now, you'll also notice on my table for monster level 4, and when it comes to hit points, if we go across, I give the average as being an 18, okay? But it can be anywhere from 17 through to 22. So that gives you a good idea of where you're probably going to be sitting. It's very unusual to see a minus con modifier on a monster. It doesn't happen very often, okay? But zeros are fine, and plus 1s and plus 2s are more common. Okay, so how many attacks should I have? Number of attacks between 2 and 3. Okay, so I thought about that and I thought, fine, I don't want to be in the top end of the band for this, because it's not really, I mean, it's crazy as a monster, but it's not at the top end of being disastrous to deal with. So let's just make that 2. So it gets 2 rams. So it's using its head horns to ram. And then we want to go with the excrete. So either you get to 2 rams or 2 excretes. So if you're at distance, heck, I would even mix and match. If you might want to do it, I shoot out a pellet and then I run up to them and then butt them with my head. That would be fine too. But I'm not going to tie that in. You can figure that stuff out yourself. But I want to give you the option. Excrete seems like the best way to describe a poo pellet shooting out of its backside. Yes. I am aware it sounds really strange, and I probably shouldn't have that in capitals. So I think it's all lowercase, isn't it? So we'll go ram. And then excrete, we'll put an E for excrete. The range of our excrete is near, about 30 feet. I don't want to be able to shoot pellets too far. That seems... I mean, we're dealing with a fantasy creature. This is basically a really big sheep that shoots poo pellets out of it. It's not based on reality, but I decided that near was good enough. I don't want to shoot far range. I don't want to be able to hit something as far as you can see. That seemed a little bit out of whack. So we'll leave it alone. So the next thing is our attack bonus. Our attack bonus, if we have a look at that, for level 4, anywhere from a 0 through to a 5. So the range is really big, okay? So I thought, okay, let's take a number that is close to the monster level. I think that's usually the best way to go. So if you look at how our monster is structured, it has a strength of +3 and a dexterity of +1. So in my head, I would think that you could use your ram, you could apply either dexterity or strength. I think because it's such a strong monster, it would rely on its strength rather than its dexterity. You know, if you cannot have your ram, your horns be a finessable sort of weapon, then why is a dagger a finessible weapon? It doesn't make any sense. So I figure go either way, strength or dexterity. So we're going to go strength, which means we could have a +3, but we can go higher, as high as a 5 if we wanted to. I can make that a +4 and just make it the monster level. Now the moose itself is got a +3. We can go equal to the strength modifier or dex modifier if you're basing it off that, but I'd go with the higher end of the two, either the strength or dexterity. Take the biggest number and either start with that number and go up, but don't go down. That's the basic gist of how to do this. So we could go with a 3. Let's make this a little bit more dangerous than a moose, just because it's weird. And so we'll give it a +4. And then on top of that, it shoots these things out. Basically, it's like a throwing dagger, I guess, with high velocity. So we're going to make that a +4 as well. That just makes it nice and simple so you don't get confused. There's nothing worse than having a monster that has 2 different numbers. Now, the Manticore and Shadowdark does this. It has a Rend, which is a +6 to hit, and then it does a Spike Tail, which is a +4 to hit, which is a pain, because now you've got to remember that they're different. It's not the most fun. So I know there's a rationale for that. I get it. Because we're not shooting at far range and it's near range, I feel like this is the equivalent of throwing something. So we can use strength. Because when you throw something, you use strength rather than dexterity, right? Right? Okay. So we're going to go with both being a +4. Nice and simple. Okay, how much damage should each of these things do? So I had to decide whether I wanted the ram to do more damage or I wanted the pellets to do more damage. And you'll notice I've gone and put a D6 for the ram and a D8 for the excrete, or the poo pellets. Excrete. It doesn't excrete. It doesn't know what that word is. Seriously? What's wrong with you, Google? Okay. So if you look at our table again, back to monsters, we've got our attack bonus. We've got how many attacks. Our damage is either a D6 or a D8. Those are the dice that we're looking at. That's what we're playing with. Okay, so what do? We decide whether we want our poo pellets to do more damage or our ram to do more damage. And I would say there's definitely a place to be said that, heck, I feel like the ram should do more damage than shooting poo pellets out of its backside. So we'll switch them around. Okay, we'll go here, 8, and we'll make this one 6. They could be the same, but a little bit of variety is not going to be a problem. Like I said, I always feel it's easier to deal with different damage dice than to deal with different attack bonuses off the same monster. Because then you're just thinking, rolling 20-sided dice, I add a 4 to that 20-sided dice. If I hit, great. I know what damage dice to roll. I don't want to have too many things moving around. We could make them both exactly the same, and that would be fine as well. And that would still be a reasonable Shadowdark monster. I don't want to give it any other special abilities. I had a big hard think about this. You know, there are a lot of monsters in Shadowdark that just have, I guess, really basic sort of attacks. They don't do anything hugely strange or different. I think the strange and different for this monster is the fact that it is really an overgrown sheep or goat that has big heavy horns on it, that likes to headbutt stuff, and if you annoy it, it will turn around and point its backside at you and shoot poo at you. And that's really all it needs to do. I don't need to do anything else. Now, I had a chat with AJ about if that was the vision he had, and so far that seems to be the vision that he had. So we're going to go with that. We've done it. It didn't take us that long. I cheated a little bit because I kind of made everything in advance, so I had some of it worked out, but I did make some changes, and I showed you how I went through that process and explained it, so that now you can go out there and make your own monster and cause all sorts of trouble for your players if you're playing essentially Dungeons & Dragons, because Shadowdark is just basically Dungeons & Dragons. adapt it running backwards. I think that is a lore thing, but I do not want to mess with AJ's lore excrete. Is it EXCRETE? Is that it? Is that why I'm having... Oh, there's an E missing. Excrete. Okay, thank you very much. Nice, Fred Huber. Thank you very much. Fred Huber is a patron and a moderator. Thanks for being here, buddy. And Matthew was here a little while ago talking about maybe this being a mount. I think you could make it a mount if you wanted to, but it could also be a wild animal or monster that gives you a lot of trouble. Nothing funnier than what seems to be a normal creature being able to do something strange, and this definitely does something strange. Now we need a creature that pees on the target. Probably, yes. So DM Dungeon Mastery, who also makes monster stat blocks, I believe you've been doing 5e recently, killed 3 of my players last night in our Shadowdark game. Well done. Did you want a medal? Hello, buddy. How's it going, Anthony? My characters, the players in my group are level 7. There's been a lot of people who got close to dying, but nobody's actually died so far. Okay? Yeah, never kill the players. Did you kill the players? He did. Taking it out on the PC. Yeah, take it out on the characters. Anthony, killing your players, that's definitely illegal. You're not supposed to do that. Yeah, I'm playing with you, man. You know, I'm going to finish there. Again, I'm going to say and plug this document, which is it's you can download it and pay what you like. It can be free if you want it. If you don't want to pay money, you don't have to. It's alpha playtest material. Yeah, go grab that. Remember, my Patreon down on the bottom there allows you access to the table that allows you to make your own Shadowdark monsters. Piece of piss. Not something that's that hard. It seems difficult, and you see those number ranges, and you think that's way out of my wheelhouse. I won't feel comfortable. You just need to chill out a little bit, okay? It leaves you room for movement, and you don't need to worry quite so much about stuff. The most important aspect of a monster's power is really the number of hit points it has. And that's really about it. That's its biggest defining factor, is the number of hit points it really has. You going good? How are you? Hoping things are well. Yeah, I had a problem running the live stream. Whole lot of technical problems. I'm on the run from the police. Are you? Okay. Well, you keep running, man, because if you stop, they might catch you. So, okay, I'm going to finish up here. We are done for today. I'll be back next week. We'll do another monster. It'll be an original monster. Have I been making the more traditional D&D monsters for, say, basic D&D or AD&D or 5e D&D? Like, you can, it doesn't really matter what you're doing, because Shadowdark is really a combination of basic and AD&D and 5e D&D. So you could probably build your monsters from anywhere. Yes, I have. Will I show them to you? Go download them from Patreon, because that's where they are. Okay, that's where they're all going. And this one will go there at the end of the week as well. Anyway, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's been in the chat. Make sure that no, I don't make sure anything. Hey, thank you for watching and listening and putting up with all this. Thank you, Fred Huber, Matthew, Anthony. Thanks for jumping into the chat. Thanks to all my patrons who support me. Otherwise, I really couldn't do this anymore, and it would just wind up being non-existent. I would just disappear like everybody else. It's just how it works. Wherever you are in the world, whether it's the morning, the afternoon, or the night, or maybe the early morning, evening, something like that. Wherever you are, look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours, unless they are killer, Brammaram, wild, poo-shooting, goat, sheep things. Stay well away from those things. They're dangerous. Okay? Until next time, keep rolling those 20s.